Hello my young friends, my name is Jan Opatril and I'm a writer and illustrator as well as a sports angler from the Czech Republic. Because I like fish, especially carp, I have written the children's book Matty the Little Carp for the youngest readers. Today I'm going to read another 4 chapters from my book, so sit comfortably and enjoy the reading.
The moon was swimming across the sky when tiredness got the better of me too and I fell asleep. I dreamt about my parents. I dreamt I found them again and we were together. But at that moment I woke up. There was some noise coming from outside the tire. Goldie and I looked out cautiously and our little hearts stopped beating in our chests. We saw a pike. It looked just like Diana the Roach had described it. It was all green with yellow splodges and long, pointed teeth. "Good morning, Mrs. Papa Pike," I stammered. "Well, well, little carp," the pike replied in a deep voice. "Is it morning already?" "I mean, good night," I corrected myself. I glanced at Goldie beside me, who was croaking. "1, 2, 1, 2. "What's your name?" "I'm Andrea the Pike. What about you?" "Matty," I said, shaking Andrea's big front fin. "Goldie," squeaked Goldie before starting to count again. "How come you aren't afraid of me?" Andrea said in surprise. The roach told us that you don't eat at night." The pike burst out laughing, her teeth gleaming. "Ha ha! You mustn't believe everything those little silver snacks tell you. I'm a carnivore, and of course I can eat at night as well. But don't be afraid. I happen to be full right now." The pike stroked her Belgian belly contentedly. "It was nice to meet you, Matty and Goldie, but alas, I have to swim now." "You haven't seen my parents, have you, Andrea?" I spluttered. "Your parents?" "Yes, I've lost them. My daddy was called Harry and my mummy Evelyn." "I don't ask my meals what their names are. Good night, little carp." The pike grinned before vanishing in the dark water of the night. The rest of the night passed without any more disturbances. In the morning, Goldie and I felt hungry, so we swam off to find something to eat. It wasn't long before we found a place full of fragrant mud with juicy worms and crunchy water snails. From time to time, we also slurped up some delicious green algae. When we were full to bursting, we noticed a little carp a short way off. The little carp was struggling with the soaking bread roll. I squinted and saw he was fighting a little crayfish for the bread roll. "Let go, you cheeky claw face," the little carp grumbled. "No, I won't," the baby crayfish squeaked, waving his claws furiously. "Let go, or I will turn you into crayfish soup." "No, I won't," the crayfish refused. At last the little carp noticed us. He went rigid with surprise. Seizing on his hesitation, the crayfish snapped one claw as fast as lightning. "Oh!" the little carp said, holding his face. "Oh! My whisker! My left whisker!" The little crayfish dashed off with the bread roll and the chopped off whisker, and the little carp turned to us angrily. "How dare you?" he said. "I've lost a whisker because of you." "We are sorry," I said. "My name is Matty and this is Goldie. Who are you?" "I'm Brian," he grumbled. "Where are you heading, Brian?" "To the black hole." "We heard that giant crayfish live there," Goldie said, shocked. "But there are also rare mussels," Brian said, "and I want one." "I don't think that's a good idea," I said. "Ha! Like I'm going to listen to two scaredy fish, Teddy and Mouldy." "Oh, come on, Brian, we only want what's best for you." "So do I," Brian snorted and set off. "The black hole should be somewhere close by. And look, there it is." We were looking at a place that looked as dangerous as a place could be. The black hole looked like a bottomless pit, like a deep well. I tossed a pebble inside, but heard no sound of it hitting the bottom. Without waiting, Brian dived down into it. "What if he doesn't come back?" I whispered, afraid. "I'm definitely not swimming in to get him," Goldie said. "He called me Mouldy." "I'm going to save him, Goldie," I decided. "Matty!" But I was already descending into the black hole. I went down a long way, surrounded by darkness, but at last I reached the bottom. It was covered in sand with weird round stones sticking out. I also saw dozens of black caves, and Brian was lying there in front of one of them. I set off towards him, but at that moment the claw of a huge crayfish shot out towards me. There was nothing for it but to start fighting. But suddenly I was pressed up against a rock. Oh no! The crayfish was opening his claw to slice me in half like a pair of scissors, but at that moment a stone hit him on the head. It was Goldie. The crayfish turned around, snorted like an enraged bull, and went for him. Meanwhile, I swam over to Brian. I threw his motionless body over my back and hurried upwards with him. Goldie shook off the crayfish and joined us. "Why are you holding that stone?" I asked him. "It's not a stone," Goldie said, winking. He opened his fin. Amazed, I found myself looking at a mussel. "What about Brian?" "I think he's all right. I can feel his heart beating." Goldie looked at Brian. He saw something terrible. The bottom tip of Brian's tail fin was missing. We carried Brian up into daylight and laid him on some sand. We stroked his scales and spoke to him. "Where am I?" croaked Brian when he opened his eyes at last. "You are safe," I told him. "What happened?" I pointed to his freshly clipped tail, and Brian gasped in horror. "Thank you for saving my life, my friends," he said faintly. "If you promise not to take any more silly risks, I have a present for you," said Goldie, smiling. "What is it?" Goldie gave Brian the mussel. "A rare mussel from the black hole," said Brian, his face lighting up like the sun. I promise not to risk my life so stupidly again, friends." We carried Brian back to the tire and spent 2 days there with him. During that time he made a full recovery. On the 3rd day he became hungry, so we set off to find something to eat. On the way we met our old friend Diana the roach. "Watch out, little carp," she warned us. Watch out for what? Fishermen. They often leave their bait in the place you are heading for. It might be a piece of bread, corn, or maybe a worm. If you bite into the bait, you will get a hook in your mouth, and then your time is up. By the way, Matty, have you found your parents yet? No, I mumbled sadly. That's okay, said Diana. You will find them, don't worry. We carried on towards the mud, but then we came across a fish that looked very unhappy. It was a perch.
Well, this was another 4 chapters from my book Matty the Little Carp for the youngest readers. I hope you enjoyed my reading today. Are you glad Matty and Goldie saved Brian from the black hole? And what about the perch they just met? If you enjoyed the story, please subscribe. I can wait to read next chapters for you. And if you want your own copy of this book, you can order it from my e-shop. View the link below. See you soon and have a wonderful day. Bye.